This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
If you want to live a more fulfilling and loving life, you have to dig deep into your pain and own it in your body. We are human beings. We come with negative and positive emotions. Allow yourself to be human. Being human is being love. Valeria interviews Ker Yang. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist and specializes in emotionally focused therapy for couples and individuals, founded by Susan M. Johnson. Ker Yang started her journey in search of love when she entered her graduate studies in 2014 as a result of an unhealthy relationship. Clinical experience, education, and being a client herself were the perfect combination in aligning Ker Yang to understand what love means, which has been a healing and spiritual journey. She has learned that love is about doing what your heart desires with a supportive team. This requires being accepting of all your emotions, including your pain. Although the journey is challenging, she believes that everyone has the strength and courage to survive it and come out on the other side. Therapy with Ker Yang is simply just being human. Being human is being love. Ker Yang is dedicated to helping others be on a similar healing journey and heal one heart at a time. Meet Ker at keryanglmft.com. Here's the interview with Ker Yang.
In your own words, who is Ker Yang?
Ker Yang is a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I practice in Los Angeles, California, although I can work with anybody in the state of California. In conjunction with the work that I've done, I've also done my own personal healing and worked through my own problems, and that has been a very spiritual process. So that's also incorporated in the work that I do as well.
That's wonderful that you mentioned right there and there. So
Yes.
that opens up that question, the space for that question about spirituality. But before that, what inspired you to become a therapist, Ker?
It was a personal experience. At the time, I was in an unhealthy relationship, and I didn't know, I didn't have a way out. So psychology was what I majored in my bachelor's degree. Yeah. And so I decided to pursue. There's a part of me that was hoping that I could fix my own relationship. Right. But I found out that the relationship wasn't for me. And it led to different avenues. And that relationship did not last. But that's how I got into this field.
How interesting. I did read this on your website and in your bio too. How do you define spirituality these days?
I think spirituality, everybody has a different definition. Maybe a generalized definition is like something much bigger than us. It's like the creator, the universe, or God. But for me, how I found it is really just listening to myself. Yeah. And asking myself, what do I want? And really following that. And when I did that, I landed in a place of I want to say just, it's so simple, but it's so profound at the same time. I landed in a place of what felt like just unconditional love. And so that's spirituality for me. It's really following your heart.
Yes. Wow, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? To just do that. But it's not for some people, for some of us, let's say it's not. It has not been always easy for me to follow my heart.
Right.
What does it take and what gets in the way when it comes to doing exactly that?
I think like when we are immersed in a society that has certain roles and they get projected onto us, it can get confusing. And what is society's expectations versus what is your own wants and expectations of yourself?
Right.
Yeah.
That is so true. That is very much true. And of course, in let's say in combination, it's almost like as a part of that. Let's say being an obstacle, I would say that there is also the in addition to that, trauma and belief systems, right, that we hold.
Oh yes.
That has been my case for so long, believing certain things and really being stuck with those belief systems because of the traumas. So, but also there are as you said, the imprints that's left, here in our minds from society and people around us, right? The closest people to us, our family members.
Yes.
And that's not, you see, that sounds, it sounds simple. It sounds very simple in the sense of going inside, just that everything is here within our own selves. So it sounds like, gosh, anyone can do that. But then it's not, for me, hasn't been as simple because of this predisposition to connect with others and not to disappoint them and feel loved and be loved and kind of cultivate harmony within the environment.
Right.
So I would love to hear from you. What is your take and how do you navigate that reality when it comes to, that dance between being yourself and connecting with others deeply and truthfully?
That's a great question. I think that there are going to be people in your life who are just not going to understand your perspective. And that's okay because they have their own perspective. And I would say you have to be aware of that and limit yourself if you want to continue to grow in the direction that is right for you. And really be around like-minded people who's going to support you on your journey. Yeah. So it gets a little bit, it's hard because the people that you grew up with, there's that need to not disappoint them, make them proud. But at the same time, they could also be the reason why they hold you back. So, you kind of have to find a balance with that and then really put yourself in a place where there's a support system where they can really help take you to, that path that is right for you.
Right. Yes. And that's why therapy is so helpful. Having somebody to guide you, throughout this process, because as you described, it sounds very much like it takes courage, wisdom, compassion, right? Self-compassion, compassion for others, understanding. It has been a very interesting dance for me. And the more I evolve in a sense of going deeper into the spiritual knowledge that I find myself studying, which is Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. It's a Hindu philosophy of non-duality. So that it becomes easier to navigate this relationship reality. And at the same time, it doesn't. Because it's almost like it exposes everything. Now I'm allowing myself to feel everything. So it's, It's just fascinating to just let feelings and emotions be here, to
Yes.
burn and just do what they do. It's
Mm-hmm.
another kind. It's actually, no, I'm always reflecting, contemplating on these things, meditating on them. And it feels like, it's like tasting different kinds of foods, there's some foods that taste really great and some of them not so great and some of them not good at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still taste and still sensation. So why not be open to all of it?
Yeah.
Right? And that's
Yes.
what's beautiful about your message, which is the topic of this conversation. The answer is found in your pain.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way you talk about being human. You say, in your bio, it says, therapy with Ker, it's simply just being human. Being human is being love.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just profound. Talk to me for a moment about that. I mean,
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. I love that statement. Part of being human, we come with so many different types of emotions, but if I could just break it down and make it try to simplify it, we come with a lot of negative emotions and we come with positive emotions.
Right.
And, just to give you an idea of the emotions that I'm speaking to, there are 6 basic emotions, and this number can change depending on which source you're citing. But there's surprise, happiness, sadness, fear, anger, disgust. And, human beings, we're very comfortable, or at least we're much more comfortable feeling the positive emotions like happiness and surprise. But it's a lot more uncomfortable. Maybe I would even say painful to feel the negative emotions like sadness, fear, anger, and disgust. And being human means holding space for all of these emotions. Yeah. And when you can do that, that is love.
Wow. What a beautiful definition for love that is. It's open, expansive. It's spiritual, though.
Yes.
That's how I have come to understand the more, the deeper I go within the realm of spirituality and spiritual understanding and realizations. I see that's what love is. And I use the word freedom instead of being human, but it's the same thing, isn't it? Embracing everything,
Yes.
not pushing anything away. And it is uncomfortable. It's true, Ker. It's very uncomfortable. And you probably have heard before a saying that says being uncomfortable with the uncomfortable, that's necessary for growth.
Yes.
Very much. And with that comes that wisdom, intuition comes into play because to what extent we want it to be uncomfortable. So when we think about the purpose of life, or what's the whole point of being here, there's something about peace that comes to me. This a sense of having this sense of peace, which goes back to the idea of love that we've been speaking about, freedom, letting everything be. But at the same time, there's I think within that there is this feeling, or maybe this state of joy arises. It's something that's very light and playful at the same time. So I guess the question is, how uncomfortable are we willing to be, in order to experience that freedom? Do we have a choice? Do you feel that we have a choice, or this is something that's just is a play of life? We have no say.
So how uncomfortable?
Yeah.
I think in general, life comes with the purpose. I wouldn't say is to suffer, but suffering and pain is inevitable. It's just part of the human nature. I would include in there that it depends on the severity of your trauma. Some people have way more trauma than others.
Yes.
And there's only so much that you can actually take. And we call it like there's a window of tolerance. So we want to stay within that window. Because if we go outside of that window, it just becomes too overwhelming. And I would say that that's the point of getting to like panic mode or panic attacks. So we don't want to get to that point. But That's why you have to be able to know your client and gauge. If you see them hyperventilating, that might be a good place to stop. But yeah, we slowly get them to that point, and we go at their pace.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me, right? It depends how much pain we can tolerate, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to being comfortable with the uncomfortable, as we talked before. That sounds like the work of self-knowledge, healing, of course, doing therapy, and something else that it keeps coming back to me also as a message, I guess, is self-trust. Being able to trust myself to go through whatever it is that comes my way. So that's one of my trainings, per se. That's how I train the mind. Always be ready for.
Okay.
Of course, it's just is in theory, it's easy, right? To just imagine horrible situations and then imagining ourselves being brave and strong. But we never know how we will face that situation. But I do believe in preparation, though. Do you think the same way? Do you kind of guide your clients to prepare themselves, not for the worst, but for difficult, challenging situations per se?
Yeah, I do preface it. I think not all clients, but I have come across clients where I don't think they understand fully what therapy consists of.
Yeah.
And I think that they think starting therapy should alleviate your distress or your pain right away.
Right.
And that's not the case, because we have to work through those challenges. And when we do that, the negative emotions will come up. So I do let them know, that this process, especially in the beginning, it can be quite emotionally painful. So, that's something to take into consideration.
Yes. So the kind of mental preparation really helps. Yeah, I would think.
Yeah. Otherwise, they would be disappointed because it's not what they're looking for.
Yes, right. Because that's funny to notice that the healing process doesn't feel always good, right? And healing like it can be actually quite the opposite.
Yeah. So, but how I would put it is the healing process is painful, but it's also relieving at the same time.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so true. So true. And there's something else about. Do you agree with the this? It's a statement, really. I don't think it's a quote. That all healing is self-healing. Have you heard that before?
All healing is self-healing.
Yeah.
Can you say more about that?
Right. From my understanding, it's as if we are the only ones that can help ourselves. We can have guides, people like therapists like yourself and life coaches, but the process is ours. We need to own that. We need to really be open to it and willing.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Okay. So if that's what the saying means, absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, that's how I kind of interpret it. It might have different meanings for different people, but
yes,
it's like the body itself too, right, Ker? It's always healing itself. It's always every time we ill or there's an injury, you see that how quick the body just does what it does to go back to the state of harmony, the state of health.
Yeah.
And I think it happens with the mind as well. It's there's something about life itself. We see that in nature. It's always returning to harmony, doing what it has to do, even with storms and all that. It's searching or going back to harmony. It's never in chaos or in the state of that state of destruction for too long. It's always. I think I really relate that to humans. Somehow.
Oh yeah.
Do you see the logic there somehow? The connection between nature, as in trees and animals, and ourselves, humans?
Yeah. If I'm understanding the question, and when you say going back to like harmony, when we're in a place of like self-destructure or in just complete chaos, like that's not sustainable. So it's like, in a way, it's like the storm cannot last forever. It has to slow down, and it will stop at some point.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. And I think that really happens with us too. It's something that it really, has been my own experience as a woman. But of course, for some of us, as you mentioned earlier, because of trauma, that storm can last perhaps a lifetime, right? For some of us.
Yes.
Which is really sad, though. And I think that would be the case with serious mental disorders. Because when I see that, because my understanding, the spiritual understanding, is that in the natural world, from looking at that, the natural world, how it works, is that everything tends to return to harmony, or that state of perfection and calm. But for humans, that doesn't seem to happen for all of us, and that's it's a mystery in a way, because while it seems like we are here from my spiritual point of view, it seems like we are here to grow, to evolve, to cultivate this new understanding, perception of ourselves in the world. But then for some of us, it's just when we have some of us who have serious mental disorders, it seems like that they are in a state of stagnation. I don't know. Yeah, how do you see that?
Exactly. Like going back to, depending on that person's level of trauma, there are just some individuals with such complex and severe trauma that it is just, it's a lot to deal with, and it's a lot to handle. And untreated, it's just that they're not going to be able to make the changes and grow from that. And it is unfortunate that, their trauma is just, almost in a way, it's just their way of living. It's part of life. And so it really doesn't, they're not able to grow out of that or come out of that.
Yes, that might be, I love the way you said that. That might be another expression of life itself. So who are we to judge, right? What is in harmony and what's not? How do we know?
And exactly. And the other thing I think it's important to note here is, everyone has such a different path. You just can't really predict. Like, you think that, okay, well, I've seen this before, and this is probably similar. And then it's like, oh, wait, it's also very different too. Yes. So we just never know.
Yes. Yeah. That's why it's wonderful to be in that state of curiosity, openness, and and humility in a way, right? In face of all this incredible array of expression of the way life, it just presents itself.
Right.
It's to me, it's just incredible, even to talk about it. Wow, we're having a conversation about something that's almost, there's nothing more meaningful than this. Having these conversations, meaningful, deep interactions with other human beings.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me has been the door to deeper understandings too. So going back to something else, so you mentioned the way you started your path to doing what you do today, and there was being in an unhealthy relationship. So I guess the question that I think will be very helpful for me and the audience is, what is your reference or your understanding of healthy relationship? What would be a healthy relationship?
Yes. So there needs to be boundaries, and you also have to know what your needs are. Your boundaries are there to literally protect you from getting hurt. If someone says something, hurtful, that has to be communicated that that's not okay. So in a relationship, you have to be able to talk about those things. Otherwise, it festers and it becomes unhealthy, and little by little, it grows and it becomes a big problem, and it really separates you from your partner or your relationships in general.
Yes.
The other thing here is your needs. You have to know what you need. And so, it's really filling up your own cup. It's like, for example, if you need your partner to spend more time with you, that has to be fulfilled. Otherwise, you're going to be sad or just living in resentment.
Yeah.
So those are the two things that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah, boundaries and your own needs. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I want to add this part here too. The needs, your needs, is your way of honoring yourself.
Yes, that's true. That's being true to you, right? To ourselves. Yeah, following the heart, as we mentioned earlier. Yes. And, for me has been, not easy though, these boundaries,
Oh,
being
yes.
able to say no and not able, I got much better at it, but I still feel guilty afterwards. So that's
Yes.
it kind of, in a way, is a contradiction, because if I say no, that should be no.
Yes.
And no other feelings should arise, but it still does.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that is so important to note, because, a lot of people talk about boundaries, but what they're not saying, or maybe they don't understand, or, maybe they haven't experienced this, but setting boundaries and upholding them is so hard, because you do feel guilty, and there's a lot of judgment that comes up with that too.
Right. So that's another preparation to have, right?
Yes.
Prepare the mind for the guilt.
Yes.
Yes. And, I talked to somebody here about this, and I think, I remember well what she said. She said something like, oh, yes, of course, it's natural to feel guilty because you're not a psychopath.
Yeah.
And that kind of stopped me for a moment. Wait a minute, that's true. I don't want to be a psychopath.
Yeah.
If you have no feelings, then that would be the case.
Yeah. And the other part here is you care about this person's feelings a lot. So, it's hard. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And I also remember interviewing someone, Bob Rich, his name is from Australia. And he talked exactly about that. He said, I wish I cared less, because he's very much involved with politics, in the affairs of the world, and how bad it is right now with the wars, people killing each other. And that actually was making, I from my perspective, is making him sick. He's having a lot of heart issues. So I think he's getting too involved with everything else that's happening, that his body is just not well. But anyway, that's my perceptional perspective on that. But he said that, I wish I could care less. And I remember telling him that I don't feel the same way. I actually love caring. And I know it's not for everyone. It's tough when we care, especially a bit too much. I guess that was my case for so long, caring so much that I forgot myself completely. And then I got myself in trouble so many times too.
Yeah.
So let's say, I asked that question about relationships. There's something we talked about love. I'm going through my notes here. And then, oh yes, you sent me these, it was related to the topic. The answers is found in your pain. So this is, and you said excitement. And then a topic on emotional wellness. And in the book, as a reference, the book is Love Sense, which I have heard before. I think I never read this book, but I heard somebody else talk to me about it. The Revolutionary New Science of Romantic Relationships by Dr. Sue Johnson. So talk to me for a moment about her. I don't know much about her work, but I have seen that she works with Christians too. There's something about spirituality coming from that point of view.
Yeah, I have not read her spiritual aspect of her work yet, but the work that she does is, maybe if I could just put it simply, it's like the science on love. And her work is incredible. It is based around couples work and relationships, and It really is just in such a loving way. And the work that she does, it's so effective. And it plays a big part in the work that I do. And it's really just asking for your needs to be met in such a soft and vulnerable place that's just loving. Yeah. And it has really helped the work that I've done with individuals and couples.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I have some notes here, the way she writes. I'm not sure if that you wrote this or she did, but it says here, when you make space for your emotions, it is you're having compassion and care for yourself.
Yeah. So that's I wrote that, but she has very similar ways of saying that. I think specifically one of the things that she said is love is a state of encompassing all of those emotions. So the 6 basic emotions that I had mentioned earlier.
Yes. Yeah, I see here. Yes. You see, I love that understanding because it really relates to, again, the spiritual knowledge that I have in realization that that's what freedom is. It's because that has been always my, let's say, quest. I know the podcast's title, A Quest for Well-Being, which was really looking for that well-being, being well. And now has evolved to this concept of freedom. Like, what is to be free? And I have another platform, which is the video interviews. It's the freedom to feel. So I guess after doing this work on myself, my own healing work and spiritual work, and then having these conversations all the time, it kind of, if I could, from everything that I have heard, have read, all my experiences, it would, that would be the, let's say if somebody asks me, what is the purpose of life? It's to be free. But not as in a place, destination to get to, but finding the freedom that's already here, that you have been already free. So I guess that has been my, I'm deepening my own experiences and knowledge, and I'm just kind of marinating myself in it, in this concept of these days. I'm already free. I'm already what I'm looking for. This is it. And that kind of relates very much to this message that you bring today. It's exactly that, being open. Like you say, you're making space, but it is, being open. Right, I can use make space. Of course, when you're open and you have the feeling of freedom, that's exactly what happens. It just feels so much more spacious and expansive, that you can let everything just be, and we don't try to fight anything. Or
Right.
You see, but one of the things that still, I guess, the mind gets caught is with the negative feelings, the feelings of sadness, of resentment, anger sometimes. I don't know if I can call anger. I don't know how angry I can get these days. But I think it's, there's something about it's kind of intense, that feeling of pushing away something. I guess when I see injustice, somebody, I don't watch TV that much, but I came across about 2 months ago, or longer than that, on YouTube. My husband and I were watching something. Then, we just came across a woman abusing an animal, a dog. And I have a dog. And I was abused as a child. So that was, I think something gets triggered, right, Ker? And we can't help it, but just have this heavy, it's a heavy feeling of pushing away, that action, that behavior, and in a judgmental way even. So would you, I'm wondering if that's, besides accepting, being open to all of it, do you find that to be natural for human beings to behave in such a way, unloving, unkind way, violent way?
Regarding the video and the woman abusing the dog?
In general, actually,
okay.
yeah, I like putting that, framing that in a more universal kind of way.
Okay. I can make sense of the Yeah, what word? I don't know what word to use. Like the abuse, I can make sense of it. I can understand it. I think that if that is how that if that's what they saw growing up, that's all they know, and it's their way of meeting their own needs or like trying to be listened to. And so, but it's not loving. But if I was to have compassion for the abuse that does happen and make sense of it, it is just that. It's that's all they know, and that's how they get their needs met.
Oh, wow. Wow, how beautiful, right? And that's what, of course, after I get over the emotion of pushing away that, then of course, that comes into play. Of course,
Sure.
This is a call for love, right? So,
right. And I'm glad that you said that, because I think the other part I would love to add is, it's harder to understand that unless you're able to understand yourself and have compassion for yourself first. And then you can kind of see and have compassion for others.
Wow. Yes, a billion times. That goes back to that work of self-knowledge and healing,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, a billion times to that. Gosh. I mean, I have to say this. I love how spiritual you sound. It's very spiritual
Thank
to
you.
me. Yeah, that perception of the world. That means you have been doing a lot of the inner work, the work on yourself, knowing yourself, right, as a human being. That's wonderful. Really wonderful to see.
Yeah, thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah, well, you very much sound this way. It's a resonance too. It's not just the words. It's
Yes.
energetically. It can be felt. So thank you for being you, Ker. Thank you. I guess it's that feeling of gratitude that rises every time I'm in contact with humans that are getting to know themselves better in a profound way, because that opens up that view, exactly that compassionate view, for themselves and the world. So it kind of lessens the judgment and unnecessary suffering, of course. So let's see. I'm going through my notes again. The attachment theory. That was there's something else that you talk about, boundaries. You did so many things that you write here that it just makes so much sense. Our feelings guides us, large and small. They tell us what we want, what our preferences are, and what we need. Yes. So feelings and emotions, they're so powerful. And that's what most of us try to run away from, which is not helpful.
Yes.
Emotion is a literal compass that guides our actions. That's funny. Just going through, I was reading this last night and now just talking to you here. I can't help it but think about my husband. He's going through, I don't know what it is, but he exactly have been trying to talk to him, but he said he feels depressed. And I'm trying to understand why. Of course, I have some ideas because I'm very intuitive and I'm always paying attention. But I can't tell him. He needs to find the answers himself. Of course, I can't. It just doesn't work, right, for us to give people the answers that they are looking for. What about if it's not? Who knows? But I try not to do that. But he's been. I said I need time to listen to my own feelings. I needed to be, to see what I really want. It's almost as if he feels like, since 2020, this is 2024 now. Yeah, we moved from New York to Florida, and he lost his business, and then and for me it was quite the opposite. Because I always wanted to do exactly this. I started in 2019, actually, with this podcast and writing my books and all before that even. But I always wanted to have this kind of connection with other humans and do exactly what I'm doing. And then in that, I guess, it grew. Now I became this marketing agency. I have a team. It's a large team. And I have so many people that I talk to almost every day, all that. So I guess he's feeling a bit... let's say, well, he did mention that. He said, I wanted to be more of the man. I want to be more, masculine. As if like the action, he's not is not doing as much as he wanted to do, as he wants to
Mm-hmm.
do. So how do you, going back to relationships, how do you see that this dynamic between the feminine and the masculine, these energies? Some people, they call it divine feminine, divine masculine, or even this, this dance between, being a man and being a woman, what
Sure.
that is like. So I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I can speak in general terms,
Yeah.
but what it's very individualized. And I think the more appropriate question to ask is, what does masculinity look like for him? And
Yeah.
what does that mean for him to, be there? And what is getting in the way of him achieving that?
Yeah. That's a great question. Yes, of course, I have an idea. I should not be answering for him, but I can't help it. Well, I would say it's for him. It's this. I think probably for a lot of men, they wanted to be in charge, and they wanted to have a say, more of a almost like a guide. They are always making decisions. They making the for whatever it is. A lot of times, I'm making the decisions, not for the house or for our dog. We don't have kids. So,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes to the business and what I do, of course, I make most of the decisions. So I guess he's not comfortable with that because when we met, he used to make all the decisions.
Oh, okay. So there's like a huge shift.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. And then he's not comfortable with that feeling and I talked to him about that, that this is how life is a lot of times. It swings, it goes from one side to another, and it's important to kind of be light with that, in acceptance. That will make the process easier of finding balance finally.
Yeah. So I think, the huge shift is a big change in the dynamic, and I can see that that's a trigger for him.
Yeah.
So some of the inner work could be like, what is the narrative that he tell himself? What are the emotions that come around that? And so I'm simplifying it, but this is kind of like a process here, but like the emotions that come up, and where in the body do those emotions show up? So it's just making more of the inner process explicit. But one of the things I think that would be important here is just knowing what the narrative is that he tells himself.
Wow. Yeah, because that tells a lot about the belief system, right? That's creating the behavior and the feelings, because I look in his eyes, like the last 3 days, they're so dull.
Oh.
And I know I even cried because I couldn't. Well, is that my feeling? What comes to me is, because I know that you are what you're looking for already. You're just limitless, infinite. From a spiritual point of view, that's what it is. So, and I see that, and I know that to be true. I know. So it's really not easy for the human part of me, the mind-body complex, to kind of see a human being kind of so identified with the limited part of themselves. That's what I see in his eyes. Like it's limiting itself. It's making itself small. Although it's huge and it's infinite, it's just, wow. Well, we can't really describe it, of course.
Yeah. So is it that you see his potential, but he is in a place of like not seeing that, like he's limited?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I said that with everyone, of course, when I see, anytime I'm in contact with people who are suffering, and that's what comes up for me. Oh, you're so beautiful. You're so perfect. Why? And then but that's another conversation, of course. I don't want to make this a therapy session, but I couldn't help.
No worries.
Yeah, thank you for being open to that too, Ker.
Yeah,
for what's happening right now, because I usually bring into the conversation every time I have a podcast interview, whatever's happening in my life, I kind of bring into the conversation just to,
for sure,
to make it. It's not even to make it more real, because it is real in that sense.
Yeah,
it is what's happening.
Yeah, but you're just bringing up what's actually happening in the current time, like in your life right now.
Yes, right. In my own kind of dance with those feelings too, because it's not
Yeah.
for the body mind, it's not easy to be faced with the limitations that it knows already. My mind, I train my mind to see life as a limitless, infinite,
Yeah.
universal kind of consciousness. So it's this one stream of everything. It's just not. It's not limited. It's so obvious to me, but I know
Yeah.
it's not for some of us. So, that might be the reason why we suffer, right, Kerr? I know you mentioned earlier, suffering and pain, that they are inevitable. But I don't know about suffering. I think pain, yes, but suffering, it might. I don't know. It's just the semantic thing. It might be the meaning we give to words. But the idea of that, to me, holding on to pain in the sense of believing them to be permanent, then that would cause suffering.
Okay. So it's interesting how you define it that way. Which yes, I would agree with that. I just use those two words interchangeably.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I see a lot of people do. Yeah. I noticed that too. But for
Okay.
some reason, for me, because I see pain as this transient kind of movement within body mind, just energetic patterns.
Right.
So I don't see them as permanent. I don't see anything as permanent. The truth is, nothing is permanent. So it's it becomes much lighter in that sense. So it doesn't. It doesn't stay. I think that's what it is too. I do relate suffering, especially unnecessary suffering, with holding on to pain, to the past, the painful memories, and all that. Although, physical pain, that might be an interesting challenge, right? I've never had. I don't think I did experience pain, but not for too long, not chronic pain. I know some people have that. Do you have clients with chronic pain too, Ker?
I have one client where she experienced a life-threatening medical condition, and she dealt with a lot of like aftermath medical conditions, but it has stabilized. But she experienced it for many years, like 4+ years now. But it is getting better. So I don't know if I would say chronic in a way where there's no hope that it's going to get better.
Yeah. Yes. Right. So, that might be an interesting challenge, I would say.
Oh, yes.
I do have my reference is always spiritual teachers and spiritual mentors and monks. So I have seen some of them go through pain, like dying from cancer, and it's still in a playful way, like knowing that was transient. It's just not permanent, and because they could see the eternal, they could see the infinite. So they're very much in contact with that reality that's painless. So I think it's easier in that way. But again, it's not something, sounds abstract, right, for some people to say that, especially people going through pain. They really won't appreciate that. You should just hold on to the painless side of you, state, reality in you. Well, easy said than done. It takes a lot of work, doesn't it? Practice to be in touch with that. So we're almost at the end. Gosh, I would love to continue to have this conversation with you for much longer. I wanted to mention there's so many points there in that the article that you sent me. So many. In the end, you say it's a call to action. You say, if you want to live a more fulfilling and loving life, you have to dig deep into your pain and own it in your body. We are human beings. We come with negative and positive emotions. Allow yourself to be human. Being human is being love. So that's the way you end that, which is the way we started actually the conversation, with the end in a way.
Yeah.
How wonderful. Thank you so much again, Ker, for being you, for doing what you do, and for this contribution, I would say, to inner peace. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And before we say goodbye for today, I do want to ask you this question. Is there anything that you left unsaid? Anything that, wanted to be here?
Yeah. One thing that I would just add, and if you take anything away from this podcast, in just simple terms, if it feels bad to you, just get rid of it. And if it feels good, keep doing it.
Yes. Yes, beautiful message and suggestion and guidance for all of us. I love that. So I want to mention the services that you offer. It's teletherapy on your website. Telehealth. Yeah, I see here. And you currently only provide virtual sessions via Zoom. Is that updated, Ker? Or
yes, that's updated.
Okay, so you only see them via Zoom. That's good to know. I'll have the website on the podcast notes, and that's Ker Yang lmft.com. So that will be clickable on your podcast profile page. Thank you so much again for your presence, your healing, beautiful presence, and we'll talk again. Bye for now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Ker Yang and her work, please visit KerYangLMFT.com.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.